Yeah, so we've got 4 speakers tonight. We have Chris, who was just speaking to you. He's going to be talking to you about JQuery Mobile. We've also got Chris Dawes from Sencha here to talk to us about Sencha and Sencha Touch, I'm guessing. Yeah. And we've got John Bristowe here from, he's going to be talking to us about Kendo UI from Telerik. And Tommy Carlos Williams, who's currently not here, but will be here soon. Hopefully he's going to be talking to us about none of the above. As Chris mentioned, if any of you in the audience use any other frameworks or anything, feel free at the end of all the talks to raise your hand and say, I really want to stick up for Angular and Angular Mobile. Anyone? Or anything else? Feel free. Once that's happened, we'll do a bit of a, I guess like a panel kind of setup, and we'll all throw questions and interrogate each other about which is the best framework and why. Without much further ado, I'm going to throw it back to Chris to talk to you about jQuery Mobile since he's first on the list. It's only fair.
I think I've pulled the short straw as well, so it makes sense to.
Are you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. So jQuery Mobile has a slightly bad rep, and that's kind of where I'm going to start. I'm going to start on the negative. So I'm not a massive JavaScript person, which is why I kind of stick with the simple stuff. So I wanted to know, why do all these more JavaScript heavyweights I hang out with, why do they hate it so much? So firstly I Googled, and I could only actually find 5 posts telling me why people hated it so much. So I took that as a good sign, and maybe it's really not as bad as all that. So the general criticisms are, it doesn't have a non-native user interface. That didn't make any sense. It has a non-native user interface. So when you create a button or a slider or some other kind of interface element, it doesn't look like the platform it's on. It looks like its own independent thing. That's one negative. Second is that it can be slow and slightly unresponsive and unreliable. One of the others is that, oh, here we go, here's Tommy and he's bought presents, look at that. One is that in comparison to jQuery itself, it feels unfinished, which maybe is the case. I guess it has less of a life. And I guess the main other negative when we're talking about using it for powering a hybrid app is it's mainly aimed at mobile websites, not apps per se. So that's kind of its big problem. But I've got some positives as well, and they're all sort of fairly similar maybe, but I do have some positives. Firstly, I'll just close some of these windows and we'll have a look at some of those posts as we go through. See, we've got some things here, as I just said, they all look the same. Cheesy animations, you know, some people like cheesy animations. This guy here, he's only got, there's a few comments there. This guy's website didn't even work, so there we go. So let's come back to my justifications of why I might use it.
I'm losing them, come on.
Not everybody, much like myself, is a fantastic programmer. And sometimes when you're starting out, maybe it's a good, simple way to begin. That's one thing. Whilst it's not completely like jQuery, it does have its roots in jQuery. So if you're familiar with web programming and jQuery, you will know how to start and get started with things and have a rough idea of where to begin and start creating an interface and understand the principles. And if you're not making a really complex web application or a mobile web application, then that may just be fine. That may be enough. For me personally, we do a lot of work with content management systems. And most of the content management systems come with jQuery in them. So if you're going to use that to power something, why add something else as well, would be my other point. The other one was I've got a sort of here, is it has a fairly wide device support, which is contentious mainly because there's a bit of a grading on the device support. So it says it has a massive device support, and then you kind of, well, that sort of does, and that sort of does, and that sort of does. But theoretically, there's a fair bit there. In my mind, the non-native user interface is actually potentially a positive, because you can use it to just make something that is your own thing, not iOS or Android, but corporate blue or whatever it happens to be. And on that note, there are a bunch of, find them, very, very snazzy playground for playing around with your interface and getting a file spat out that you can easily utilize then. I hope it still works. There we go. Yeah. I haven't used this in about a year, so I'm not entirely sure what's next. But anyway, and there's a whole bunch of other tools as well. Now, so that's kind of my main justifications are it's very good for beginners. That's my main justification, and I'm all about education and lowering the bar is a dangerous thing to say, but lowering the barrier. So I nearly had a Freudian slip there. Lowering the barrier to entry and letting people just try things easily, and it's a good way to start. And I have one more justification, which is a bit cheeky of me, but because numbers aren't everything. But let's have a look at usage statistics. Okay, Backbone. It's a popular one. Backbone.js usage statistics. This is, I think, from memory, just double check. So you have the number of top 1,000,000 sites, the number of top 100,000, number of top 10,000 sites. Backbone's pretty respectable there. Some relatively high numbers. Great. Kendo. Little lower. Sencha. A little lower. About the same. JQuery mobile. Ooh, look at that. 450. Double Backbone. And that is my closing argument.